Thank you guys for joining. Let's just jump into it. Let's start with some level setting. I'll start with you, Ross. In a sentence or two, can you summarize what VideoAmp's kind of mission is? What do you set out to do?
We're here to create a more healthy and data-driven ecosystem by redefining how media is valued, bought, and sold. Okay, that's a nice, tweetable mission statement. Bill, what about you?
Look, our goal is to measure in an accurate way and in a transparent way wherever anyone is being entertained and informed.
Okay, and David?
We're powering a better media future for all people. We're very focused on all people worldwide, representing everybody, and through two platforms, through audience measurement, monetizing it, and through Grace Note, helping people find the content they love. Okay.
So at the risk of being the grossest understatement I'm going to have on this panel, the past 2 years have been reasonably atypical for all of us on every dimension. If you were to summarize the consumer shifts that you have seen over the pandemic, what would they be, and how have you re-architected your organization as a result? David, I'll start with you.
Listen, I think it's obvious that the consumer's adopting streaming at a much faster pace. Outside of live events, that is the majority of where she's consuming, and younger people faster than older people, so it's coming along. I think this fundamentally shifted power. There used to be power in a programming schedule that controlled the shelf space. It's gone. The consumer programs for herself.
Got it. So what are you doing differently to acknowledge that?
I think what we need to do is move our measurement. We're moving everything to something that's impression-based. I think it's really important that we move from a fixed schedule of a fixed number of channels and a fixed number of time slots to everything being consumed on demand. So that's really changed the way we meter. It's changed how much big data we're bringing in more than anybody to make sure that we accurately measure what she loves.
Yep, we're going to talk big data, small data in just a little bit. Let's move on to you, Bill.
Yeah, so about a decade ago, we saw that it was going to be impractical over the long run to measure folks with a panel, to have people go inside the house. And we saw a world where other data sets, from principally the set-top box to start with, would be a very good way to try and to achieve a census economy, where it would be passive and big and accurate. So we were planning for a world where people weren't going to respond to traditional survey type, traditional panel type of looking at these big data sets. So when the pandemic happened, we were already in place of measuring everything in a census type of philosophy basis. And it only accelerated with the pandemic, when people either got their government checks or had more spending money because they weren't eating out or had to commute. They were buying a new TV set from Amazon or another spot online, popping it on the wall, connecting it to the internet to watch streaming or to watch what they were getting from cable, satellite, or telco. So we were ready for that inevitability. And we were also ready for another sea shift, and that's using audiences. Just like you said in your keynote, going beyond age and gender. We live in a world about the cars we drive, how we vote, and we should be looking at TV descriptors in that way.
Okay, Ross, how about you?
Started the company 8 years ago on the foundation of impression-based, audience-based. So for us, we've been set up since we started, and when the consumer shifts accelerated on the more streaming, digital on demand, it was great for us, and we were able to support our customers. And
so has the pandemic not affected your go-to-market approach at all?
No, it did. Our revenues doubled through the pandemic. So it was really good for us. I mean, companies that have been claiming they've been doing that, I think, you can look at the fact patterns and you can see the differences of companies that were able to support the pandemic and the shifts and others that struggled.
Yep. One of the things that we think about a lot, I think about a lot, is that one of our biggest challenges is fighting against a non-ad supported future. And I'm sure that many folks in the audience have seen some research recently. There was a stat from PQ Media that showed that time spent with ad-supported media fell to 47% in 2021 and will go down to 43% by 2025. Do you guys concur? Do you think that that is what's happening? And what do we do to combat that? Who wants to take that?
I'll grab that ball. Look, I filled up my car this weekend, and it's twice what it was filling up recently. I do my grocery shopping for our family on Saturday. I was actually appalled when I pulled out my iPhone to pay for it, how much it was. What does that mean to this question? Consumers have to get thriftier. We have an inflationary economy where folks don't have enough spendable money to pay for non-ad supported. I think the consumer is going to tolerate limited ads that are tasteful, targeted to themselves. And the themes that David Cohen talked about in his keynote are spot on.
You're getting brownie points, by the way. I appreciate that. That's good.
Listen, the data is real, so we completely see that in our own measurement, and I don't know that it's going to change that much. I don't want to take any false comfort that the economy will drive advertising. People can either spend time to save money by watching ads, or they can spend money to save time. I think that the purpose that we all have to serve is a better media future with the right ads. I do agree with audiences. They have to serve people well. They're going to be more expensive because there are going to be less of them. So we've also got to make sure we measure them accurately. Got
it. Okay. We're going to dive into the belly of the beast. And if Ross, if you have any comments, please interrupt. If I don't call on you, please get aggressive. We have measurement, we have targeting, and we have currency. And the question is, how do all of those coexist in your mind? And I'm going to actually ask each of you a question. So David, you have said some tools will work well for targeting, but they may not work well for measurement, especially as scarcity increases in the industry. What do you mean?
Yeah, so building on the last point, when we measure, I think we start importantly with a universe estimate. All this technology created more distribution, but it did not create more time, and it did not create more people. A lot of the false metrics, and I think inflated numbers, come when you're measuring machines. It is important to take machine measurement and correlate it with actual people. And I think that constrains it to there were only 24 hours a day, and there were only so many people. And so I think that universe estimate is important. Secondly, a lot of targeting evolves smartly with machine learning. It moves real time. That doesn't make it persistent. If you're going to measure something as a currency, you do need to make sure that the standard holds true throughout the campaign. So I think persistence is super important. Thirdly, and I know you'll probably talk later about MRC, I think it's important that measurement be accredited. I think it's important that there be audits. I think it's important that there be empirical data. There's too much at stake to just rely on data that's not confirmed. So I think that that's super important as well. And lastly, it needs to be interoperable. A currency is an underpinning. There's a lot of analytics and tools, and I think we're getting smarter and smarter about creating audiences. But if you can't reconcile that back to one true set of a fixed number of people and a fixed number of minutes per day, I think you really risk overstating what's going on in the market.
Got it. And Bill, where does Comscore play on this continuum?
Well, we play in all three of them, and I believe that all three of them need to be accurate, and they have to be transparent. And David, I agree with you. It is about the MRC. Transparency and trust are key, and the industry has decided, and I support it, that the MRC is our vehicle for trust and transparency. And whether it's a tool that's out there or whether you're trading billions of dollars on it, it has to be audited. You have to pull open the black box and be able to show what's in there.
Got it. And Ross, you have said the more that streaming grows, the more pressure it places on the legacy currency system. Explain.
I think we've had low standards for a very long time, and it's created a lot of waste for the whole ecosystem. And I think a dumb currency that doesn't have the ability to work well with measurement and targeting is a huge reason why we're here. And you've seen so many times where people are guaranteeing on something, and in order to deliver that guarantee, it's very inefficient. I mean, you're wasting half of your impressions to deliver something that's of value for the consumer. And that hurts everyone, because when you have the publisher spending a lot of money to create premium content, to create this engaging audience, and it's being undervalued because the system is just so bad. And then the advertisers get less benefit of it. So I think it's very important that these three have a symbiotic relationship to eliminate waste and create more value for the ecosystem. The advertisers have the ability to get a much higher return on investment with smart measurement and a smart currency. It just goes beyond just basic counting. And the ability for publishers to maximize, it's just disgusting how publishers can have such good inventory and get credit for just half. How is that sustainable?
We're going to dive into that, I think, because
well, can I just? I want to finish one thing though, because I have a different view about a company being in all three. I think you've really got to watch your conflict of interest. I don't want. It's the reason we sold our ad-serving business to Roku. You can't. I don't think you can maintain trust if you're also doing all the targeting and all the audiences yourself. I think you got to support an ecosystem. I really think we've got to make sure we protect against conflict of interest.
Well, I agree. You can't be in the ad sales business. You have to be in measurement business to create targets, to work with clients on who they define as their customer. And I think so many of the folks in the room today are going to be faced with their CFO in the next 12 months, tough meetings, that it's going to be harder for your customers to buy your products. You got to be more efficient with media because there's going to be a lot more pressure on you. And at the same time, there's going to be a lot more pressure to prove that the decisions that you made did result in a sale.
And a lot less cookies, so you got to make sure you get it right.
Oh, yeah.
I
The
think
Girl Scouts aren't going to like that.
I think this is exactly the problem. Like, targeting has nothing to do with conflict of interest. Arbitraging and buying media and reselling it in a non-transparent way and reselling it is not what we're talking about. We're talking about a smarter measurement system that can be optimized. It has nothing to do with the conflict of interest. Having the ability to have something where publishers can optimize effectively, they're the ones selling the media. This has nothing to do with the conflict of interest. This is why there's a problem, because it's so inefficient and it's just destroying value.
So let's just pivot slightly, because I think we're going to stay on the currency topic, so we'll have some more time to kind of debate this. The things that I hear that from my agency colleagues is that we need one currency. There's a lot of complexity out in the world, and when we kind of introduce all of these different currencies into the marketplace, it adds a tremendous amount of complexity, both on the buy side and the sell side. Managing inventory, knowing what you're buying, being able to compare apples to apples across publishers. Let's talk about that a little bit. I know, Bill, you've said that you think that it could be similar to kind of the credit reporting world, Experian, TransUnion, Axiom. There could be a couple of currencies, but not necessarily one. What do you guys think about that?
Look, I think that whenever this stuff is complex, let's call it what it is. And wherever there's a complex problem to solve, usually you find two companies that are your dominant sources of truth, like a goalpost, right? If we're in the financial business, and there's a lot of them down the block here, and we're evaluating bonds or the quality of their securities, we'd be looking at Moody's and S&P. Probably the most complex thing that we do in our economy is to judge our creditworthiness as a society. And judging that in different gradients is really hard. There you have three primary currencies that are being used. We're doing something similar, that I believe that you have to have a small basket of currencies, two principal ones, and then you may have tertiary ones that people may use for some specific task. I think it's just around practicality. But those currencies have to be accurate, they have to be transparent.
David?
Yeah, listen, a lot of my career was spent running agencies and all the media companies at Publicis. Like it is super complicated, and it's only gotten more complicated. I do believe there is a need for a base standard. I also think there's a need for yield management. The challenge with just selling targeting without getting back to a universe estimate is it inevitably adds up to over 100%. And ultimately, your value isn't targeting. Your value is, did you sell your product? So the agencies and their clients, the advertisers, really need a true set. Are there a couple of goalposts as there are with other ratings? It could happen. I think what is important is, any base currency has to be trusted, has to be accurate, and has to be value added. So, any complexity is going to raise costs, so you just better be sure it's worth the value to do so.
So just double click on that. Are we saying that there is going to be a multi-currency future?
I think that that's really up to the agencies and the advertisers. Publishers have a lot, they're saying a lot right now, but ultimately, follow the money. 100% of all advertising comes from advertisers. I think the WFA and the ANA have been really clear on what they want. I think as long as it's delivered, if it's delivered in one and it's simple, that could happen. If there's a couple, that could happen as well. I think what's really important here is that we deliver what the advertisers need all in for total investment management, and that they don't end up with a opaque world where they can't add it back to 100%.
Ross, you're looking visibly uncomfortable. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I just viscerally disagree. I think this isn't like when you have a panel, you're just sniffing over the top and you're just making your own assessment. In a world of big data and just the privacy shifts and regulation, like let alone identity, the data on digital exists on the sell side. It's the publisher's first-party data. And you need to, in order to have the best measurement, you have to have access to the best data assets to do these standards like transparency and trust. And again, this is just baseline, just of course. And so, I think it's really more important than ever to ensure that the publishers are having an accurate way to represent their audiences, regardless of where it's going. And that comes from the first-party systems, period. And there's census truth data available out there. And the more you can integrate and gain the trust of that, that's when you can add more value to the advertisers. So in order to make the ecosystem healthier and more valuable, you need to have very tight relationships integrating into the entire sell side, and then create valuable measurement that proves the value of these audiences and allow the advertisers to then optimize effectively. And when the advertisers can optimize, they're going to get much higher sales. And with the higher sales becomes more value on the publishers, and that's how everyone wins. So I think I just disagree completely.
Okay.
But with all due
I'm getting that sense.
Listen, I've been there. I grew up, most of my life has been with the digital agencies. The challenge with what you say is that it relies on machines, not people. I think just looking at server logs, we know that a quarter of all connected TVs record impressions when the TV is off. We know the same thing about set-top boxes. We also need to know who the people are. Machines keep showing more and more volume, but there's only 24 hours a day and there's only so many people. So I do think, I don't think you can be panel-based. I think you need to be people-based. Panels serve an important role to validate panels, to validate big data. But I think it's really dangerous to think the machines are the total answer.
But David, here's where I think the trust and transparency plays in the MRC. For a decade, we built a lab testing these pieces of big data that what comes out is actually the truth. And when it comes to smart TVs, there are issues with ACR. It's just simple that when you have sporting events, they may not work particularly well. So again, back why I mention these, this is an inexact science, but we have to strive for accuracy because there's too much money at stake.
I agree with the accuracy, and it's, in my career when we were doing weather forecasts, the machine made a lot of progress. You still fly planes into the heart of hurricanes to know exact routes. You still need empirical data. They're called meters, thermometers, barometers, anemometers. It's important that you actually validate. When I was working on vaccines at Watson Health, machine learning, big data made an enormous difference. We got to these vaccines 5 times faster than historic. I'd still say there are clinical trials. If you guys are opposed to samples to validate the data, next time you go to the doctor for a blood test, just have them take the whole thing.
No, David, I'm not opposed. That's actually funny. I give you credit for that, okay? I'm not opposed to samples. We use samples to validate. They're important. And in this complicated world, again, that's why I think you need two primary currencies, because there are differences. And if we look at our credit scores, there really are two primary ones that retailers and banks use. And then there's the tertiary ones.
Got it. Okay. So I'm going to summarize that section by saying we need both panels. We need small data, and we need big data.
Yep.
Yes? Keeping the big data free of noise, not messy, of high quality, accurate. Whose responsibility is that?
That's us.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. We've got to do it. And that's why these businesses are expensive to operate. It takes years to figure it out. It takes years to sort through it to get it right. This is not a business where a dump truck comes and can dump some big data with a lot of smart people and you can figure it out. You can come up with an answer, but what's in that black box answer? You've got to be able to look at it over a period of time, that it's stable and predictable, and there's not thumbs along the way that are putting their thumbs on those scales.
Yeah, we'll see. I think, we don't have the innovator's dilemma where we've had this panel for 50 years and have to justify it. We license panel data, and we have access to all the big data, large and small data. And there's a lot of clients and data science and papers out there and just experiments where you can sample from big data. So sampling and validation is not one-to-one with a panel, in sense of a manual panel or a meter. So the industry gets those things just confused a lot. And so you can create a truth set in a variety of different ways. You can multi-source, you can do probabilistic assessments, you can be trying to skew correct and have samples that we know. You have coverage to correct things like TV's on, TV's off. There's a lot of ways to do this. And there's a lot of data out there that shows that just meter-based panels have a lot of skews and biases as well. And so I think the industry is not sure yet, frankly. And for us, we're just showing the pros and cons, and we'll offer both. And it goes to, I think, the trust and transparency question on MRC, and we open source this.
Yeah, but
so are you signing up for the MRC to have trust and transparency?
Yeah. So for us, trust and transparency is a let's talk about that. So I think certain companies like the MRC are great, but also need to evolve.
So are you going to sign up for the MRC?
Yeah, we are in progress of doing things with MRC, yes. And
so you're telling our clients here today that you have applied for accreditation?
We are in process. Yes, we are. But what I'm saying is that's, again, I think also a low standard that needs to evolve. So for us, what the MRC and other people do so far is they just validate what you say you do. And as an engineer, I don't trust what you can open source software, and you can give the source code to the world to analyze and review. And our more technical clients are now digging in and appreciate that level of transparency to every single part of the code base. With there's nothing more transparent than giving the source code. So for us, trust and transparency is so important that we open source our code base and methodology. And you can even look at our GitHubs for some of our core repos. So that's what we've done so far, as we're also going through third-party accreditation like the MRC and doing it in that way. So for me, what I'm trying to say is it's just one of things that go that way, but also needs to evolve with the industry, because there's a lot of clients that are giving feedback regarding what they want changed. And so the process also needs to evolve with the industry needs. And I think part of the reason why we're here is because of a slow and this inefficient way to create new systems. So the MRC is great. We said this publicly. We're in the process of that. I think the MRC can also evolve to help create the ecosystem. And I think companies that are software-based should be open sourcing all their code, because there's nothing more transparent and trustworthy than that.
I'm not against open source, but that doesn't in and of itself make it the most accurate. Listen, I don't have the innovator's dilemma. We are all focused on the best way to innovate for an answer that people can trust, buyers and sellers. It's not fun to be the voting machine or the NFL referee or the ratings. You've got to get both sides to agree. I think there needs to be standards that you can verify.
Yep.
The fact that we're trying all these different ways, all data will confess if you torture it long enough.
All I'm saying is we've had clients deliberately tell us, I don't trust the MRC. I trust your software. I have other clients that say, I don't trust your source code. I don't understand how to read it. I don't have engineers. I trust MRC.
Yeah, well, the industry trusts the MRC, Ross. You should trust the MRC.
Can I just interject? I think that the debate over whether MRC is right or not right is not the question. MRC has been around for a long, long time. The debate is around auditing against the same standard for all players in the space, and I think we are all agreeing, albeit in a fairly circuitous way, that MRC accreditation is something that we should all be doing. So let's not continue to debate that. I want to talk about two other things if we can. We have like 6 minutes left. The marketplace, upfront marketplace, NewFront marketplace is upon us. I have long marveled at the fact, as I said in my speech, we do lots of talking and then we go to the market and we buy exactly the same way that we've been buying year after year after year. Could you predict, each of you, how does this year's upfront NewFront marketplace change?
I think it changes quite a bit. I think the risk of staying with the status quo and the risk of going with something radical is too great. I believe that we're going to see significant change in this upfront.
Okay, change to what?
I think you're going to see more big data sets like Comscore being used through our CCR products and through our linear products, our streaming products. And let's not forget, you talked about ad-supported. The vast majority of the minutes that are out there today, right now, are in linear. Streaming's critical, and I do think we're seeing a shift in streaming. And I think NBC and Viacom has it on the writer side of having tiers of people who want to spend the money to not see ads, and those that can see the same content with tasteful targeted ads essentially for free.
Got it. David, how is it going?
Listen, when I talk to the investment officers at the holding companies, they're all, it will change. They all want to have better outcomes for their clients. They all want to better understand audiences. So they're looking at that. And I do think what was an upfront and a NewFront have blurred. I think they're looking at the audience all in.
Yep.
The fact that 43% is now, in ad-free, they need to make sure the other works right. So I think they're going to look at it holistically. I do think we're going to want to get to better guarantees, but they're not going to fall for the idea that somehow there's more than 24 hours a day or there's more people. They are going to look for yield management.
But let's not forget, too, as there are a lot of folks, and I see it with my kids, where they're just watching Netflix. The fact is that they become more valuable when they do see an ad. And part of our responsibility is to help our customers find my kids, Daniel Livek and Kim Livek, when they are watching ads, and then let you all price for it, and you all who are brands find those individuals.
Which is exactly why the upfronts will change to be all in.
Ross?
I see it changing because it's not just about how much can I commit for a better price for inventory. I see it changing dramatically over especially the last year or two, by offering access to new data sets, different use cases for measurement, things like attribution, enabling higher fidelity data access via clean rooms, and other mechanisms that these publishers are realizing that there's so much more value than just inventory and counting and pricing that they can give to the advertisers. And by packaging up lots of access to data or advanced measurement segmentations or targeting approaches or publisher first-party data on streaming assets, this is what's making the marketplace more valuable. And so I see it as cross-platform packages happening a lot more, access to data, use cases like attribution, higher fidelity access to data on the group buys. So rather than just having it being like the publisher platform, having more granularity. So there's a lot of things that I see being different in that sense.
Got it. We have a standing room only crowd here, which is amazing to see on so many dimensions.
It is.
My last question to each of you, as we have a room full of buyers, sellers, brands, agencies, ad tech platforms, what's your ask of the marketplace? What would you like to implore the market to do on a go-forward basis? Ross, I'll start with you.
Be open for change.
Bill?
The risk of staying with the status quo this time is the risk that you shouldn't take.
Let's get out of the politics and self-serving motivations. The IAB and the VAB and the ANA and the WFA and the 4As, we all need to have one purpose here, which is to serve the audience and understand what she wants and loves. The audience is completely in charge now. Let's let go. I agree with change. We got to let go of the past power struggles and work together. There's no more powerful industry on earth than media. We have the value of bringing the world together, but we've got to get to one view and stop the politics.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, so thank you to all of you for that. We fully agree. I think that the not invented here, the my sandbox, that I'm not going to change, that those days are clearly over. We are ready to do our part as IAB and as IAB Tech Lab. We look forward to working with each and every one of you. This has lived up to the expectations that I had for this session, hopefully for the audience as well. Thank you very much for spending some time.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.